In my hometown of Toronto, we run full broadband wireless internet to the entire center city over the electrical system. So anybody can open I can open my laptop or my phone in a cab and be totally connected online to full broadband. That's competitive advantage. And then you've got WiMAX, you'll hear more about that later, Wi-Fi, satellite, low Earth orbit satellite. But there will be multiple ways for this to happen. And the issue isn't cities, and the issue isn't farms. You know, go look at the cows. They've all got wireless transmitters on their necks all over Canada, right? So we can say, oh, that one's got mad cow disease. We found it. We found its satellite dish. But you know, you go into every farm and you see a big satellite dish on the back, and they got broadband, and they're looking at the satellite, looking at their field, saying, where do I need to water it? Where are my cows now? Where's my tractor that some little moron drove off with? They find it all. The problem is in small town and rural America and Canada, where there's a gap. And we don't want people to move. We want them to have full equitable access and to maintain their lifestyles, while at the same time not getting lower access to education, lower access to information, lower access to their government services. This is one of my favorite pictures. It's a absolute zero. You blow a bubble into absolute zero, where it's like 400 or 500 degrees below zero, sort of like Canada. And it's totally frozen. And you take a picture of it, and when it hits the ground, it crashes. You know, do we have an image of the world that doesn't really understand the value system we want? Do we think that the old way is the only way, or can we get a better way without losing what we got? And I talked about exponential change coming. And we got demographic change. The fundamental shift of a very smart generation of kids moving through our world. A generation of kids who knows how to text and change it, right? In my work with the military, we were able to reduce the death rate in Iraq and Afghanistan when the generals, who don't know what it's about, banned texting in the theater of war. And so my friend went in and said, why is everything up? Well, everything's up because they won't let me use my phone anymore. They spent $20 million trying to make quiet Velcro so the enemy wouldn't hear us opening our ammo packs, but we're not allowed to say, the shooter's on the roof behind you. And so once they figured that out, they let them text again, and the death rate went down again. How many of you let everybody who's in the National Guard or over in Iraq and Afghanistan know their library card works from Iraq and Afghanistan? Do you have that global point of view? Do you have the ability to let them into the access, into the databases, the audio tapes, everything? State Librarian of Wyoming, Leslie Boughton, loaded up all their audiobooks, bought 1,000 MP3 players and gave it to every National Guards person from Wyoming. Then she pointed out to them that everybody in Wyoming has access to this stuff too. Her truckers love it. We've got seniors who are different. The millennials are different. We've got technological changes, global competitiveness changes, social changes, and government changes. Our government is expensive, and it can be cheaper using these ways of doing things and more. There's some of the videos are playing out here. The Did You Know 4.0 is out there. But there's a new video that came out today called Libraries and Transliteracy. So you can go to these on your own time. But they're ways of looking at the social media revolution and what it really means. And it's not about transactions, it's about transformations, right? We know under the Human Genome Project how people learn. Information only becomes knowledge through a process called learning. We've been able to observe the 7 styles of learning for many years. It's called Bloom's taxonomy of learning. Now we've found most of the genes as people inherit their learning styles. Oh, he's musical because his grandfather was musical. We found the gene for music, right? We found the gene for text-based learning and the genes for dyslexia. We found the genes for mathematics, right? So people are pre-coded for this sort of stuff. So it's nice that we like to read and we're good at reading, but you know, do you want your cardiac surgeon coming in and saying, don't worry, I read the article last night? No, you want your cardiac surgeon to be an experience-based learner who actually had his hands in a few chests a couple of times. So when we look at the way information transforms into knowledge, we have to start supporting all the ways it transforms. So what's your visual learning strategy? What's your auditory strategy? What's your experience-based strategy? If you need to replace a tap Do you want to go read a book and look at a line drawing on how to replace a tap? Maybe. Maybe you're a mathematical logical learner and that works for you. I have to watch a video showing how do I get that freaking tap washer out of that thing. This is what libraries do when they support all things. And then you've got, this is what my classes look like when I'm teaching at various universities. Everybody's got sort of a blue cast to their face. And they're Facebooking the whole time I'm talking to them. And so, yes, we got to keep their attention, but we also got to recognize that when I went to university back in the 70s, 17% of people went on to higher education. Now 40% of people do post-secondary education. We have to have a smarter population, and all of our education has a half-life of about 6 to 8 years before it's crap. So we got to continuously make sure we're keeping up to date with stuff. And everybody's going to have like 8 jobs. So how do we do that? What infrastructure does a country, a state, a community need to make sure everybody does that? Now just ask any auto worker who didn't improve their skills for 20 years, how they're doing today, and whether they're prepared for the world as it exists now. There's no quick fixes. This is my 2 favorite things, duct tape. We fix everything with duct tape in my house because I'm a librarian. I don't know how to fix anything. And we got people saying, you know, we don't have enough money. Well, that's just an excuse. It's not a reason. At any level, you can sit there and find people who work with you to make this happen. And it's just a matter of making the library more permeable, for the communities to understand the library as having intelligent people in it that can deliver the resources and know how to do the stuff, for whether it's as simple as government forms or whether it's as important to make sure that homework happens. And all this stuff is about the disruptiveness of mobile, of broadband, of the internet. The internet has now progressed to its infancy. We've been through this period where, you know, we birthed it. Now it's ready to really be scary. Because if you don't think it's scary, it's pretty scary. And you might have seen this out front. Here's the library value proposition: CDs, DVDs, music, the internet, graphic novels. That's going to shift. The core resources in the library are going to move to not the objects, but to the people there. And it's not a matter of selling ads on Google, right? Although a lot of people seem to feel that that's where they're going to make their money. And what are you going to do with an ebook nowadays? How are you going to read it? Have all of you downloaded ebooks, learned how to read them, know how to give advice? That sort of stuff, audiobooks. Like, you know, we all need to know how to do that. 150 million books online. Significant difference between recreational reading and fiction and nonfiction. 150 million books online, most of it nonfiction. Do you really read a nonfiction book from cover to cover, or do you just look at the paragraph or the chapter you need? They're big reference books, right? Dictionaries are dead. Encyclopedias are dead. IT books. Then you look at the ebook universe and how it's moving and who's investing in it. And you see a big difference in just what's happening with books, right? So what does it mean? We've already been through a world where we've gone to an article level universe. No one really cares when they're looking up an article, what article was in front or behind that article. You go onto databases, you pull out the articles you need. What does it mean when we go to a chapter and paragraph level universe on books? And how do we make sure people can do that? How can you separate the wheat from a chaff when you have 1.8 million hits? And do you want to delegate what hits show up in the first 3 pages to Google and an advertising-based strategy? To Google Scholar, right? Oh, we'll get Google Scholar. It doesn't have ads in it. Yeah, but you know why Google Scholar exists, right? There's a reason why you pay 4 times more for an ad on Gossip Girl. Did anybody ever see a television show where they show you a bathtub and it has a door on it so you don't have to lift your leg up to get into the bathtub? Or a scooter that you can drive if you can't walk? Those are ads based on cheaper things because they only go to old people. You can be damn well sure it's not a young person's show if they're showing you a bathtub that you don't have to lick your leg up to get into. Whereas you go into Gossip Girl, you see fundamentally different stuff, and the ads cost 4 times more. Google's challenge as an advertiser, because how many of you pay for Google? You serve the people you pay, who pay you. So you build up Google Scholar because you can pretty well guarantee that the user of a Google Scholar is between 14 and 30, and they're the target market that you can charge more for an ad. And you can charge more for an ad because you can track from the geotagging service, and I can buy this from Google now, every single space where the ad is coming from a university, college, or high school campus anywhere in America. And I can change the search engine optimization for that, right? Because that's what advertisers do. I can change the search engine optimization if it's going to State House, right, Peggy? So I can make sure that your government gets the things I want them to see. And there's, you know, all the ebook readers who are coming out now, and there's lots of ways to do this. Some of them are pretty simple. The average, this is the new Apple tablet, and it's pretty neat. It folds like a book. Look at that. What a great format.